Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome
Welcome.
to Girls Gone Spooky.
Spooky. Uh, I'm Olivia,
And I'm Amy.
and I
And
have COVID.
yeah. Oh no. Another
Surprise.
sickness episode.
Yeah,
I feel
plot
like
twist.
we've had a few of those over the
Yeah,
year or however long
it's
it's
been a
been.
while. Well, I went a really long stretch without getting sick at all, and then it was just like, bah,
Yeah.
bah, kick while you're down, kick in the kidney, kick in the
Yeah.
gut. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And my immune system's like, please.
Help me. Yeah. Suddenly it's
So
winter
it's
and
winter, baby.
it's hard.
But yeah, but you know what? At least now I won't get it when I'm visiting my family.
Yeah, that's true.
So, silver linings, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yes, that is good.
Um, I feel like we have a weird episode today,
Yeah, a
and
little bit.
I love it.
Hmm.
So this is our last episode before the hiatus, you guys.
Wow, that snuck up.
So it snuck up real quick. So we are talking about the dark web.
Ooh.
um, and of course, this topic came up from something we found on TikTok. And I'm gonna talk through that. But basically, the dark web seems to be like this. We'll get into definition because there are different definitions,
Right? Yeah,
subgroups
I was learning a
underneath
lot.
what. Yeah, right. I learned
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah.
But if you scour Reddit, like scour Reddit, the
Mhm.
majority of what people say in like the Ask Reddit group when people are like, what's the most interesting or the scariest or the whateverest thing you saw while browsing the dark
Mhm.
web? Well, there's a lot of awful shit. But for the
Yes.
most part, you have to really be looking for that stuff. So for
Mhm.
like normies who are like, oh, I just want to see, which like
Yeah.
maybe don't because it's just not very secure.
Uh-huh.
But for normies who are doing it safely and just want to look, it's
Yeah.
really mundane. Like it's like
Yep.
really messy. It's like the internet way at its like birth when it was just
Right.
like shitty links and
Mhm.
like a lot of dead links and
Yeah.
things that just don't work.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the concept of the dark web is actually a lot scarier than the real thing, with the caveat of like there is a lot of CP on there,
Mhm. Oh,
porn that is not
yeah.
legal,
Mhm.
and like disgusting. Lots of
Yeah.
illegal
Mhm.
drug selling, guns selling, like all kinds of
You
like illegal
can,
crap is going
yeah,
on.
hire a hitman on there for real. Like, that
Literally,
seems like a movie thing,
which
but
is so
real.
crazy. And a
Mhm.
lot of people say that the majority of those are scams, but that there are some legit ones. You just have to know how to find them.
Mhm. Right.
Um, but the way that I kind of positioned this is from like the most factual to the least factual, perhaps.
Okay.
And I figured because um we're heading into the break, I was like, why not? Why
Yeah.
not just like throw a little
Uh-huh.
no story at the end?
We love
The
it.
TikTok- yeah, right. The TikTok that I found that like led us here, honestly,
Mhm.
is it real? Unclear. Or is this guy just like a really good storyteller? And I was like,
Right.
at the end of the day, I'm just not going to ask too many questions. Last episode before the hiatus until the new
Mhm.
year, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just go
Yep.
all in on the dark web.
On the dark web. Yes.
The dark web.
I'm excited. I can't wait to hear yours. I didn't cheat and read anything that you had written, so
Good.
I'm
I love
excited.
that. All right, should I jump right in?
Yeah, but actually, do you have definitions of stuff to start with?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Because
I do.
I was kind of confused by two things, so we'll see if you say them.
So is it deep versus dark web?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is from a user. You guys, When I say I read every word of every thread about this on Reddit, hours. I spent hours and then just like out of morbid curiosity couldn't stop because it was like all the CP stuff and all the like code
Hmm.
words, like gross, like cheese pizza is code for that. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
and if you don't know what I'm talking
Disgusting.
about, it's illegal porn with underage people. I'm not going to say the word because it's just
Yeah.
so heinous.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but one of the things that kept coming up, and people kind of joke, like, I know I'm that guy, but like, let's be clear, like, there is a delineation between the dark web and the deep
Right.
web.
Hmm.
And there are even other kind of things beyond that, like other subgroups within the internet, basically,
Hmm.
that you could technically categorize, but for our purposes, at least for the stuff I'm talking about, I found just a really brief explanation that this guy, Flying Ninja Cake 123, his username
Uh-huh.
on Reddit,
Hmm.
shared. He said, one of the problems here is everyone is confusing the deep web with the dark web. And he explains it super simply. He says, deep web is anything that search engines can't see. So think about like the most mundane things like Wall Street Journal articles that are behind a paywall or
Hmm.
your private DMs, like things that are sitting in your email inbox that with like out a login you can't get to, or blogs that are sitting in draft unpublished, or
Hmm.
random mundane stuff, but you also can embed darker things there, but that's
Right.
still not considered dark web, considered deep web.
Hmm.
Dark web is things that you can only get through TOR. And then when someone asks like what is TOR, they say the onion router. So it's there are several servers that you can get there. I don't think it's all onion, but onion, I was so confused. I was like seeing onion links, like onion this, onion that. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And I kept thinking the onion, like
Right.
the
That
like
was my first thought.
parody
Yeah.
news. And
Uh-huh.
I think maybe the onion, that like fake publication did it based off the dark web. Like they
Yeah.
named it because it's so like ooh.
Yeah.
Um but basically they're like instead of .com, .net, .gov, it's .onion.
Onion. Yeah.
And there are other ones, but like that router, I guess, is like one of the main access points. And then from there, you can get to like Silk Road and their names of all these different, I guess, servers once you're
Hmm.
in there. So, anyway, basically anyone can get there. You have to
Right.
like download like a Chrome extension and then
Hmm.
you
There you
can get
are.
there within a few
Yeah.
clicks.
Hmm.
It's pretty crazy. For the record, not doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
not doing that.
No.
Um,
Although I
it's
think,
just too
yeah,
creepy.
people use it like on a day-to-day basis just for their
Hmm.
normal stuff, especially if you're
Yeah.
concerned or like maybe paranoid is the right word about privacy
Hmm.
online. I
Just
think
because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
yes. Exactly. So I yeah, like when I hear the word, I guess it's deep web, which I had actually never heard.
Yeah,
I
me
would
neither.
I was picturing the more sinister side of things. But yeah, it seems like average Joe can go on there and do their
Totally.
normal business if they feel
Yeah.
like it. So and maybe it's not as
Yeah.
scary as we think until you get to a certain
Yeah.
layer.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the one thing, like, we are not encouraging anyone go on the dark
No.
web or the deep web
No.
for that matter.
Mhm.
If you are insistent, use a very trustworthy VPN
Yeah,
because you don't want anyone to be able to access your personal location, IP,
right.
address,
Mhm.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
Which some of the
definitely.
people who do, there are bad actors there. So
Yes.
just be aware of that.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I was reading that too, that like sometimes it's like these like super like alt-right forums or like
Yeah.
people like yeah, people who are just like really anti-government and like know that there's potential for the government to be monitoring things. The irony is that the feds know about the dark web and regularly shut sites down there. So like
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
how
There's
um
no escaping it,
no,
really, at all.
no. And when there's so much like bad activity happening there, it's going to attract the feds more. So anyway, Don't fully
Yeah.
understand the logic, but you know what? Paranoia is a deep thing.
Yeah. True.
Okay, so a couple little stories here, and then I'll pass it to you, and then I'll get into my main story, which is a bit of a
Okay.
series, but it's not that long.
Okay.
Um, okay, so this is from Year of 39, and so they share in a Reddit thread, not the modern quote unquote dork web,
Dork web.
dark web.
That kind of works too, actually.
The dork web.
The dork
But
web.
back in the days of Usenet, I posted some harsh criticism in alt.religion.scientology, like a B instead of an N.
Uh-huh.
And then in parentheses, they say, yes, that was a typo for Scientology, but I'm leaving it for context.
Okay.
Uh, the online threats were funny, but then I started getting death threats by mail. So I backed the fuck off.
Oh
And
God.
then they didn't say much about it. And then they were like, holy crap, like this post totally blew up. So I'm going to answer some questions I've been getting. So they go on to say, I posted a bunch of criticism of the COS, the Church of Scientology, in the Usenet group alt.religion.scientology. This was in the late 90s and well before most modern forums and content aggregators like Reddit existed. Fark was the big one, and Dig with two G's was just starting to get popular. I was in high school at the time, so for non-Americans, that's grades 9 to 12, and was using my home computer as an FTP server for a Juarez group on IRC. I have no idea what any of
No.
that means,
Uh-huh.
but he's on his home computer.
Yep.
Um, and he said, on IRC because I convinced my dad to sign up for a 90-day free trial of this new thing called broadband. It's so funny. It's
Oh.
like
Yeah.
the inception of the internet, basically.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so he's saying, and of course, we never canceled it. So they figured out who I was by using acute FTP, which is all one word, vulnerability to get root directory access to my PC. So basically, he should have been protected by this FTP server, but he wasn't because these people basically hacked it.
Yeah.
The death threats were bad enough, but what really sticks with me is the malice of deleting my family photos,
Oh no.
including the last picture that we had with my dad while he was still alive.
Oh no.
Yeah, like what the fuck?
That's evil.
So, yeah, he said I was the typical invincible feeling young adult, and I was more concerned about worrying my mom than I was about my own safety. And this, of course, was long before doxing was a thing, which we've talked about it before. But for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's like someone publicly outing your personal information. So, like kids, right now, it's happening a lot on university campuses for kids who are pro Israel, pro Palestine, and
Right.
like other groups are doxing each other, so
Mhm.
basically people like know where they live, which is so scary. um
Very.
and so he was saying, so online threats going from email to handwritten letters was terrifying, but as a high school kid I never would have admitted I was scared. Nobody asked, but if I was confronted in person, I would have fought back. And 18 years later, if they really held a grudge and threatened me again with the same malice expressed in those letters I got, I would probably open the door with a gun in hand. But he basically was saying, like, just be fucking careful. Like,
Yeah.
careful what you say, careful, because, like, people can find you on there. And,
Mhm.
like, that's not paranormal. It's just fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Um,
It's spooky.
so it's very spooky. So here's where we get into the paranormal, and you may have to suspend belief for a little bit. But you know
Okay.
what?
That's
This
not a
to me,
problem.
it's not a problem, really.
Mhm.
I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
But this to me still feels feasible because I think, like, okay, so in theory, if you're using the dark web for a specific the dork web, you're using the dork web for some malicious
Mhm.
reason, malintent,
Mhm.
you have to know what to look for, right? So if you're some
Right.
fucking creepy pedo, you probably know what to search.
Mhm.
Fine. Yuck.
Yeah.
Um, die in jail. But
Yeah.
I digress.
Yes.
Um, you also could imagine people who are like Satanists or like, there are like guides for cannibals and stuff
Mm-hmm.
on there. Like that is stuff
Yeah.
that exists on the dark web, on the dork
Yes.
web.
Yeah, on the dork web.
So that's not so dorky, that's just fucking dark. But you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine that like people trying to summon a demon, for example, would probably operate from there, you know?
Yes. Right. Yep.
Which is why this feels a little bit feasible to me. So
Okay.
this is a series. He did like 10 videos on this on TikTok. And
Well.
he is known for doing stupid shit and
Okay.
maybe inviting like demonic things into his presence, but it's not
Mm.
just horror. It's like, well, it's not just it's not just horror. A lot of it's like also just things we don't understand, UFOs, aliens, things like that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I basically just took some like paraphrasing notes of a few of his videos and then just kind of walked through a bunch. But this
Okay.
guy, his name or his handle is at TJJAYTV6. So he starts the first video. This is the one that hooked me. And
Okay.
he's like walking around a mall, like a busy
Mm.
mall. And he's like, okay, so everyone knows I do horror content. I talk about things like UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories. But recently I did something that really could cause someone personal to me or even myself to get hurt. So last week, I went on a live stream saying that I was going to be on the dark web. I found a couple of servers and made a video about it. So I went on and nothing happened the first day, but then I went on it again and again. And the third time, I saw something I really shouldn't have.
Uh-oh.
I started receiving threatening messages, and the camera on my computer was hacked.
Mm.
And this guy says that they're coming for me that night.
No.
So that, yeah, absolutely fucking not.
No.
So that night, I start hearing weird things at my door,
Oh
knocking and
God.
scratching. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and I started getting threatening text messages as well. So they've got his phone number, they know where he lives, like they've
Mm-hmm.
got all this shit. So he's like, so right now, and he keeps like kind of like he's like looking over his shoulder half the
Mm.
time and like kind of cuts the video and starts it again. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm just like walking around the mall right now, staying in public, trying to watch my back. And then he's like, I'll continue to post the next few days, like give you guys updates.
Oh God.
So I watched all these videos, girl.
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
and he's not the best storyteller. He tells the story a little bit like a 6-year-old, but you get the point
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
end.
Eventually.
And he also wears these like, this really cheap like Ray-Ban knockoffs they hand out at like events as like
Yeah.
merch, like
Uh-huh.
super cheap. They look like they're like 20 cents to make.
Yes.
They're those, but the plastic is like the American flag.
Oh
And I'm
wow.
just like,
That's a
you
look.
are a character, my dude.
Oh
Um,
man. Wearing the
so
flag.
anyway, yeah,
Something.
TJ is really doing it big.
Mm-hmm.
So I just summarized the next few videos. So he's like getting threatening calls. He
Mm.
finds like a tracker on his car.
Oh
Yeah, so he's like, I'm gonna get out of my house for a while because he thinks he sees someone in his house one night
no. Oh no.
when he's there alone,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, fuck this. So he like packs up his stuff. He goes to stay in a hotel like a couple towns over. Someone breaks into his hotel room while he's out
God.
and is like rifled through his stuff. They don't take anything, but it seems like they did it to like scare him, like to
Mhm.
let him know that they can.
Yeah.
Um and then his car goes missing.
Oh
So
my
he
God.
finally finds his car in this like abandoned garage. Like really creepy, dude. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
just like fucking with him.
Yeah.
So he goes back home and he explains that he has this like camera set up to view his window and like his door. And then he has like the webcam on his computer.
Yeah.
And on occasion, like the webcams will pick up like audio coming from the window, but never like someone trying to enter the window, obviously. So in the middle of the night, one night, he hears what he describes as a demonic voice coming from the window. And when he checks the camera in the morning, there's nothing. And
Hmm.
so it's like whispery, creepy, like maybe saying his name, but it's really hard to tell what it's saying. So he's like, fuck that. But then he's like, okay, I know the cameras don't pick up that sound. So in the middle of the night, he wakes up hearing whistling.
Oh
at the
God.
window. So
No.
he starts recording on his phone and he plays the recording, and I just about jumped out of my skin. He plays the recording. It's like this creepy whistling and like someone whispering his name for sure.
Oh
And then
no.
kind of alternating. And there's like a lot of time in between. So it's not like Amy, like
Mhm.
creepy like that. It's like drawn out.
Yeah.
Um,
Ew.
and then you can hear this creepy motherfucking voice whispering something. It's not super clear, but it sounds kind of like I'm coming to get you.
Oh God.
And I
No.
was like, it's a no for me, dog. It's a
Mhm.
no for me.
Yeah.
So finally, he says what he saw on the dark web, and like major trigger warning on this. It's basically like two guys in those like V for Vendetta masks, and a third guy with like a burlap sack on his head, like kneeling in front of them. And one of the guys takes out a chainsaw, and you can imagine what
Oh.
happens from there.
Oh God.
Really, really fucking gross. And
Mhm.
then it's like the V for Vendetta mask that like pops up on his computer screen
Mm.
afterwards.
Oh my God.
So, anyway, TJ hasn't posted anything really about it since. So, if it's real, I guess it died down. If it's not,
It's
he's
a good
just a
story.
fucking character. It's a great story.
Yeah.
So, he tells it like a 6-year-old, but we love the content. So,
Oh my God.
we're
That
here for it, TJ.
ugh, I hate that though.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the scariest stories I came across were also like I was just browsing and suddenly I was seeing a live webcam from my
Yes.
computer, which is
Oh my
like,
God. Yeah.
no, that's
So
unacceptable.
scary.
That,
So scary.
yeah, keep a sticky note on
Hell
there.
no. Yeah. I know. Shit. Now I have to start doing that. It creeps
Yeah,
me the fuck out. I'm also
same.
not going on the dark web though. Let's
Right.
be real.
No,
It's not for me.
yeah.
Not for me.
I don't know why someone would target people like us, but you never know.
Who knows?
I'm
Yeah.
not
I don't
doing
know.
anything important.
Yeah, there are a few people who were like who got caught up in like drug busts from the DEA for some of these dark websites,
Mm.
and like people who felt like they had to look over their shoulder for like years and years because actual arrests happened. And
Yeah.
like years later he looks back on it, he's like, yeah, I bought like my body weight worth of like shrooms or coke or whatever,
Yeah.
but he was like, I mean, clearly I'm not like a big fish, so they clearly
Right.
had other
Yeah.
priorities.
Right.
um but yeah, fucking crazy, crazy,
Oh,
crazy. So I'll pass it
perfect.
to you.
Okay. Perfect. Well, yeah, I just have two little also Reddit stories. None of this is paranormal, but it is spooky, so
Spooky
um
as hell.
yeah, I'm pretty brief today. But of course the ones I just said found a webcam feed coming from my own webcam. Somebody wrote that about their experience on the dark web. Um, and then here are a couple more. So the username for this one is Progressive Coder, and they have a foul mouth. So fair warning. But it's funny
My people.
they like swear so much in this, but they use the little stars rather than typing out the full word. So it's like they're not fully
So
committed.
stupid.
Yeah. But okay. So
Self-censoring.
progressive coder. So this may seem like a nebulous answer. The question was just, what's your scariest experience on the dark web? But the real scary shit are the portals. By that, I mean little doors hidden from everyone except the people who know what they're looking for. Seemingly innocuous sites that have clues hidden in the page source,
Yeah.
or seemingly innocent image galleries containing images that have audio clues or other things embedded in the code that have to be extracted through specific means. When I was in college, the guy who got me into computers used to show me the ones he had cracked. One of them led to a PDF that was a copy of the original Anarchist's Cookbook, first edition, before it was heavily edited and stripped down. It had shit in there, including detailed chemical breakdowns of military grade explosives,
Oh my
way
God.
deeper than just your typical, this is how you build a weapon stuff. There were other more sinister portals too. There was one that just led to a chat room he showed me that was some kind of ultra occult LARPing shit, except they would share ASCII image scans. I don't know what that stands for. Of super fucked up shit like snuff level violence that you could
Oh,
really only see if you copy pasted the code into a word editor and scaled it a certain way. Um,
what the fuck?
yeah. And
I mean, people are creative. I guess
yeah,
you give them that, but Jesus.
yes. Because that, I didn't copy it down, but one article that I was looking at, I guess there's an ongoing, maybe not anymore, but at least a few years ago, of this person who posts in a specific kind of code, um, like messages that if you decode it, it says, please help me or something like that. And
Oh
people
my
are
God.
still trying to decode what they're actually saying because some of it is like no one has broken the code. Um, so
What the
who
fuck?
knows what they're really trying to say in there? But yeah, I think people maybe
Yikes.
do like scavenger hunts. I mean, that's a terrible
Yeah.
way to put it, but a little
There,
bit.
yeah, a little bit. I came across a few that were like, people, I mean, some people create just like fun content on
Yeah,
there. Like, there
right.
was one that was like this like starry sky background, and then it's like begin, and you have to like answer this riddle. And then it's like, you've now entered random cat facts. And it's just like, and he was just like clicking through all these random cat facts and then others. But then you wonder, like, if I keep going, am I going to find something really fucking scary here?
Right.
Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like you just never know where you're actually going to end up.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So then there's a second one. This is bizarre. So this is written by Urban Hawk 1. And they wrote, I remember a long time ago, there was a guy online on the dark web that was trying to buy large quantities of bed bugs.
That
That
one.
is so
Oh,
weird. And
but
when questioned why he wanted them, he basically said that he wanted to try to breed them to be resistant to normal methods of killing them while simultaneously breeding in a weakness that only he knew. That way, he could release them in people's houses, force them to pay him to get rid of the bed bugs since no one else would be able to kill them.
so weird.
So that could be
So weird.
someone just like making a joke, but that's the kind of thing that you could come across if you're browsing the web.
The
So,
dork web.
the dork web. Yes, exactly. So, those were the two that stood out to me. And then I ended up finding this. I think it's a conspiracy theory as of right now, but some people are starting to report it as if it's a real thing.
Mm.
And it's the deepest layer of the dark or of the deep web. And it's called Mariana's Web. Did you see that? It's
Yeah.
like even deeper than the deep web.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this article was written by Violet Blue, which is a cool name.
Oh, yeah.
And she, I assume, I love that she started this article this way. She wrote, like most people, I find the siren song of lurid, spooky bullshit to be irresistible. Same.
Lurid, spooky bullshit.
Yep.
That's what's up.
Yes. And the dark web's boogeyman aura is all about spooky bullshit. So that's why she was interested in this. Um, but the organ harvesting dramatics are nothing until we get to the deepest part of the web where people don't want you to go, the so called Mariana's Web. And Mariana's Web is named after the Marianas Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. So this is the deepest
Mhm.
part of the web. It's supposedly the deepest part of the web, a forbidden place of mysterious evil, or at least that's what the subset of online believers want you to believe. So, depending on where you get your Mariana's Web myths, this is where you'll find the darkest secrets humanity has in its history, like the secret location of Atlantis, copies of the Vatican archives, which I thought was interesting,
Oh my god.
um, or
Topical.
yeah, exactly. A database of archives belonging to the most powerful intelligence agencies on Earth. And a lot of people believe that Marianas is home to an all powerful female artificial intelligence entity.
Oh,
So
interesting.
they believe that she is the Marianas Web, and she's also like the overseer of the internet.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, I don't know what to think of that, but um, yeah, it's said to be an AI that acts as the internet's all seeing matron, controlling information and monitoring remote systems. Yeah, some have even gone as far to say that Mariana's Web is the AI itself, which is believed to be a compelling theory. And any being with that amount of knowledge has the potential to be incredibly dangerous. So
Yeah.
we'll see what comes
That's
of
interesting.
this.
I didn't get that far down that
Yeah,
because it was mostly me just reading like what, low grade Redditors were saying. And they're
yeah,
like, that's all bullshit. It's all
yeah,
fake links or
yeah,
whatever, which like some people believe, but
right. And yeah, I
interesting.
get why people think it's just a conspiracy at this point because they say that the only way to access Mariana's Web right now is with quantum computers. And to my knowledge, they have it, they have said that quantum computers exist, but they don't actually have that high of computing power yet. I should have looked that up, but I don't think they're like as advanced yet as they would need to be to do something like this.
Yeah.
Um, and I just wrote down like what quantum computing is because I didn't really know what it was. Um, so, non quantum computers rely on binary code, which is the ones and the zeros. Quantum computing, in the simplest terms possible, extends that definition to say that an object can be a 1 and a 0 at the same time,
Hmm.
which allows quantum computers to calculate algorithms exponentially faster than any currently existing technology. And the so NASA, Google, and the Universal Space Research Association have confirmed the existence of quantum computers. However, the only way to run a quantum computer is by placing it in an extreme environment. Its CPU can only run in a vacuum whose pressure is 10 billion times lower than that of the Earth's atmosphere. In
What the fuck?
addition, the vacuum must be at a temperature of 0.015 degrees above absolute zero. So, this is,
What?
if
Why?
Mariana's Web exists, this is not the average Joe that's accessing it.
No.
This would be like only the highest level of government that would have access to a computer like that. And
Which is even scarier,
right.
actually.
Yeah. So
Holy shit.
I don't know. That's
Conspiracy theories abounding.
yeah. And
I
I
love it.
I don't know. I don't see why not. I mean,
Yeah, I don't either.
quantum computing isn't as
They
advanced.
exist.
So, yeah. But I was
Holy.
I was thinking about that cuz I'm sure you saw how people were trying to illustrate what the internet looks like an
Mhm.
iceberg, and what we see on the clear net is 5% of what the internet is or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's this huge rest that's under the water. And I was like, it's occurring to me that I don't know what the internet is to begin with.
I
Like,
had that thought too.
what is this that we're talking about?
As you were speaking, I was literally like, huh, I'm on the internet right now. Like, I don't actually know
Mhm.
how I'm seeing you right now.
Right. I don't either.
I mean, I get like cameras and like data being
Mhm.
passed really quickly but like
Uh-huh.
how is it that I mean, I'm gonna sound like such a fucking like old person, but like how incredible that like
Yeah.
I am speaking and you're hearing me probably at like a millisecond lag. Like
Mhm.
that's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. And we're
And
in
seeing
different
each other
countries.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. It is amazing when you think about it. But
it is.
yeah, still have no idea what
Nope,
it is.
clueless. No idea how it
Because
works.
people talk about it as if it's like a physical thing.
Yeah.
Is it?
Or it's
I don't
or
know.
as if it's I mean, no. Like I think it's all around us, isn't it? Because it's like things whirring like through wires and
Right.
I don't know. My dad is 100% going to call me and be like, "You're an idiot." Oh shit! Did you just Google what
I
is the
did. Yeah.
internet? I could hear it. Click clack click clack. I was like, that bitch just Googled what
Yeah.
is the internet. What does it say?
It's a global network of billions of computers and other electronic devices.
All
So,
right. Well, that doesn't help at
not
all.
really. No. We'll have your dad write into us what it
Yeah,
really
let
is.
us know, Dad. We've got no fucking clue.
Yeah.
He's explained a VPN to me before, but that's
Okay.
about it.
Okay. That's good. That's advanced
That's good.
knowledge.
You know, that's advanced. Yes,
Yeah.
very advanced. Um,
Back to
all right,
you.
should we read a scary story?
Yes. Let's.
Okay, so this is from H3Man4694, and it is a four-part. And I think I
Ooh.
can get through all of it, but we'll see. May leave a
Okay.
little cliffhanger for you, hoes.
Okay.
Okay, so he says to begin, I think I should explain to some readers the difference between the deep web and the
Ah,
dark web.
yes.
The deep web is a place that is accessible online by the use of special web browsers such as Tor that contains less than legal things such as drugs, human trafficking, and hitmen for hire. The dark web is pretty much everything that's no longer available by conventional means such as military websites and other websites that have not been incorporated into the current internet architecture. With that in mind, I would like to convey to you all my story of my accidental journey into the unknown space known as the dark web. That definition is the opposite of what I thought it was, but it's fine. You know what?
Whatever.
It's fine. Whatever. Deep
Uh-huh.
dork, fuck it.
Yeah.
Um, so they say I'm a computer technician by profession. I work for a company that's contracted by local businesses and private consumers to set up internet connections, install software, repair any sort of computer problems they can come up with. So naturally, I get all kinds of crazy stories and problems from these people, anything they can come up with. I swear, some of these people just don't know how to work a computer, even in this day and age. Guilty.
Mm-hmm.
What is the internet?
Yep.
Tell me, Google. Anyway, one day I get a call from a local business complaining that their internet is acting up and that they, quote, must have a virus. So I shake my head thinking that someone must have unplugged a network cable or downloaded a Trojan horse accidentally, get up and drive over to the business to address the problem. As soon as I arrive, the man who called me immediately spots me and starts going on and on about hackers and how much he hates Microsoft Windows and how much viruses it creates and all that nonsense that I usually receive when addressing business problems. He leads me to his computer and I pull up my laptop and sit down in front of it and begin to work. He tells me good luck and walks away to do whatever it is he does in his downtime. I open up the browser he uses, Internet Explorer, no surprise, and it opens to about colon blank. Doesn't even have a home page. So I tried connecting to google.com 404 error. All right. Well, I know that google.com definitely exists, so there's a problem with his internet connection. I open his network and sharing center to see if I can use the built-in troubleshooter to diagnose the problem. So I give myself a well-deserved facepalm when I see that he isn't connected to any network at all. So I search for networks, find a few wireless connections for him to connect to. They're all WEP encrypted, and I'm almost positive that he doesn't know the key. So I break out my laptop and run a WEP cracking tool to get his computer up and running again. As I'm waiting for my tool to find the WEP key, another network suddenly shows up on my computer. This one unprotected with an SSID consisting of a random hexadecimal string. Now, I'm extremely bored waiting for this guy to return, so I decided to connect to it and take a little look around to see where this was coming from. I connect without a problem, open up my toolkit of cracking tools to see if I can find a source for the connection. As I'm having my fun hacking away at this unprotected network, my computer freezes up, albeit only for a second or two. But this doesn't happen much, and it caught me by surprise. I shrugged it off as the poor internet speed here and kept on going. A couple minutes later, however, it happened again. A few minutes after that, once again, and each time getting longer and longer. Weird, I thought to myself, what's with this network? And it was then that things started getting really interesting. After the long string of pauses, my screen flickered a little bit, and out of nowhere, my browser opened by itself. Now I was worried that I had somehow infected my computer with some kind of malware by connecting to this network, so I proceeded to close the browser and began to disconnect from the network before anything else could happen. But I couldn't disconnect. No matter how many times I clicked the little disconnect button, my computer didn't respond, despite everything else on my screen running fine. Fuck, I thought to myself, this is going to be a long day. And just as I was about to hit the power button on my laptop to perform a hard reset, my browser opened again, this time with a little chat box opened.
Oh no.
Hello. I stared at the screen for a couple seconds, not quite knowing what was going on. I want to talk to you. Now, I had heard about these AI programs that have all these programmed responses to simulate conversation with people, and I was not impressed. This was one nasty virus. You need to leave this network now. This is your last warning.
Oh.
Hmm. Maybe an automated security program designed to keep hackers out? I'll have to admit, I was impressed with that. I had never seen anything like this before. I'm telling you one last time, leave now. I don't know what made me do it, but I responded to the program. Or what? The
Oh.
next response scared me more than anything in this world ever has. The program began listing information about me: my name, address, telephone number, credit card information,
Oh.
my parents' names, their address. My heart sank in my chest and all the color immediately left my face. I couldn't move. I just sat there, paralyzed with fear. But what came next was even worse. Don't look at me like that. My web was on.
No.
You really shouldn't stare, and then it puts He-Man. I think it's the H3. I think it's He-Man.
Mhm.
He-Man 4694. You might see something you regret.
Oh god.
And suddenly, the most horrifying images you could ever imagine flashed on my screen. Images of disemboweled humans, human sacrifice, detached limbs, cannibals eating people, video clips of mass suicides and firing lines. My heart was racing. My body was shaking in utter fear of the images I was being shown. They're seared in my brain. These were things that no one should ever see. I mustered the strength I had left and hit the power button on my computer and slammed it shut. I ran to the bathroom and threw up a couple times. I was drenched in sweat and could barely compose myself. It took me about 20 minutes to go back to my computer, and even then, I had a hard time getting near it. I looked over at my client's computer, and it was connected to the wireless network I was cracking earlier, and it was working fine now. Just then, my client returned and thanked me for fixing his internet. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my laptop and left. Going down the elevator with the laptop under my shoulder was terrible. I just wanted to leave this place and get my laptop replaced as soon as I could. Fifth floor, fourth floor, come on, come on. Third floor, second floor, come on, goddammit. Ping, ground floor, open up, come on. And just as the doors opened, from behind me, a whisper. You really shouldn't stare, He-Man 4694.
No. No. Where did it come
That's
from?
This is part 2, Journey into the Dark Web,
Okay.
Nightmare.
Ooh.
Since people have been asking me to continue relaying my experiences about the dark web, I will reluctantly tell you about the traumatizing several days following my experience in that office building. After I had left the office building and drove back to my office, I promptly gave my laptop to my boss, telling him that it had become non functional and that I required a replacement. I told him that someone had accidentally spilled coffee on it during my last trip and that it short circuited. In reality, I made a pit stop on my way back to a hardware store and bought the most powerful magnet I could find and ran it over the hard drive several times. I wasn't risking that thing ever turning on again. So, after a few short minutes of the keep better track of your shit speech, he took the laptop and told me that I would get my replacement tomorrow. It's probably the most satisfying thing I could ever hear. For a few days, everything was back to normal. No more AI chat boxes, no more funky unprotected internet connections, no more disturbing images popping up on my screen. I was safe until the nightmares started.
Oh no.
I remember the first one I had very vividly, and I shudder to even think about it. But I'll tell you nonetheless. It began with me walking through a large city. I remember seeing large buildings and people walking up and down the streets on their way to work or shopping, whatever it is city people do. As I was walking, I found myself in front of a very large building, much taller than the rest, and for some reason I wanted to go inside and take a look. So I walked through the front doors and took a look around. It was a fairly normal office building, people moving about, talking on their cell phones and whatnot, minding their own business. I realized that there really wasn't much to see here, so I turned around to leave, but something was wrong. The doors to the building were gone. I walked forward thinking that they were some new type of door that blended into the wall or something, but nothing was there. I found myself very confused, so I turned back around again to maybe ask the receptionist where the exit was, but she was gone too. Everyone was gone. The lobby was empty. No sounds, no people, no furniture, just an empty white room. And now I was scared. I began to panic and pace around the room looking for any way out, but there was nothing, nowhere to go. So I began to run at the walls, trying to break them down, but all my attempts were futile. After about 4 or 5 bum rushes against the wall, I sat down, out of breath, looking down at the floor. It felt like I was there for hours just staring at the ground when suddenly I heard a small whisper. I looked up to see a black silhouette of a man facing me. He stuck out his hand and whispered ever so slightly, "Trying to leave?" For
Mm,
some reason, I trusted this figure. Don't ask me why, dream logic or something. But I felt like this figure was going to show me the way out somehow. So I took his hand and got up and said, "Yes, can you show me the way?" And he said, "Of course, follow closely." He turned around and began to hover away from me, so I followed. I don't know how, but he began to create hallways and staircases out of the room I was trapped in, leading me in all sorts of ways as if through a giant labyrinth. We climbed up and up and up until we finally reached a hallway that had a door at the end of it. It was then that he stopped moving and turned back toward me. I could make out a faint smile on his face as he pointed toward the door. "Is this the exit?" "It is." I was so happy to finally get out of this place, so I grabbed the door handle and began to turn it as he placed his hand on my shoulder. I turned to look at him, and his words make my heart race to this day. "But remember, He Man 4694, you shouldn't ever stare."
ugh,
My eyes widened as his face began to morph into that of a horrible horned creature. His teeth became like razors, and his mouth was filled with fire. I threw
mm,
him off of me and opened the door, only to find my worst fears behind it. Dead people were hanging from the ceiling, and blood covered the room like wallpaper. I screamed, but nothing came out. I turned away from the room and ran as fast as I could back the way I came, but it was not long before I realized that I was hopelessly lost in this labyrinth that the demon had led me through. I
mm,
ran and ran, but couldn't find the way out. There was no way out, and I was trapped in this nightmare. Started hurling myself at the walls in an attempt to leave this evil place, but nothing was working. I thought I was going to die here, and then I was awake. I was drenched in sweat, my heart racing, my breathing heavy. I looked around, and it took me a couple minutes to realize it was just a nightmare, a horrible,
mm,
horrible nightmare. I got up out of my bed and walked over to my bathroom to wash myself of all the sweat I had just doused myself in. And
mm,
as I washed my face, I noticed something in the mirror,
ugh,
a small light coming from my room. I turned around and I saw it sitting at the foot of my bed, my personal computer.
mm,
I slowly walked over to examine it, thinking I had accidentally left it on before going to bed, which I rarely do, so I bent down and picked it up. Command prompt was open, but it was blank. No prompt or anything, just like that little black box with the white cursor flashing at me. And it was then that I remembered I didn't even use my computer before going to bed. In fact,
mm.
I had left it in the kitchen. My webcam light turned on.
No.
Command prompt began to type. "What's the matter, He Man 4694? Bad dream?"
No, I wanna cry.
So sorry.
No.
All
It's
right, we keep going.
watching, yeah. Oh god.
Okay. Now, immediately after seeing what had appeared on my screen, I did what anyone else would have done. I removed the battery from my computer, threw it into a safe that I kept in my bedroom, and locked it tight. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I just sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, paralyzed with fear. This was no ordinary nightmare. This was real. And for the next few days, I had the same nightmare every night, each time as traumatizing as the first. And worst of all, each time after waking up, I could hear my laptop fan inside that safe. I knew what it was doing, but I never looked. I didn't want to see that message again. I didn't want to scar myself even further. After 3 nights of experiencing this terrible nightmare, I stopped sleeping. I couldn't see those horrible images anymore. I couldn't face that demon again. It was too much for me. I kept myself up with caffeine and vitamin B. My motor functions declined and my cognitive ability deteriorated after the second consecutive night. I was so weak, so tired, so afraid. On my third day of self induced insomnia, my boss walked over to my desk and gave it to me straight. "You look like a." This is a great insult. "You look like dried up dog shit, man. Go home and get some sleep."
You
You should
look
really go to bed.
really tired.
You look tired. I looked up at him. I wanted to tell him so badly, but I knew if I did, he would just tell me to get my shit together and come back tomorrow. So I nodded my head in agreement, picked up my stuff, and walked out. As I was driving home, I turned on the radio to help keep me awake. I had not slept in almost 60 hours, but
Whoa.
instead of my favorite tunes, all that came out of my car's speaker was static, just a bunch of white noise. I started changing channels, but everything was the same, static. So I turned it off and drove home in silence. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed through my front window that there was a flickering light coming from inside my house. It was my TV. I had left the damn thing on before leaving for work. I wasn't surprised, though. Not sleeping for 2 consecutive nights was definitely taking a toll on me. I put the car in park and started to pull the keys out when my radio turned on again. More static. Was I hallucinating? Christ, I'm losing it. No, you're not. I almost shit my pants. Did that come from the radio? Either I've gone nuts or that was extremely coincidental. I'm still here, you know. Holy fuck! This time I was sure that deep static voice just came out of the speakers of my car. I looked at my radio to see what station it was tuned to, but the screen was just a bunch of random symbols and letters that didn't make any sense. I started to panic. I immediately turned the car off and almost ran into my house. No, they can't follow me everywhere. I locked my computer in a safe. This can't be happening to me. I whipped around to look at my television, which I had forgotten was still on. I swear, I wish that the goddamn Teletubbies were on. In fact, I wish anything was on, but there wasn't. It was just static. No sound, no signal, just static. Boom! I almost fell over backward in fear. The television sound came on with a huge bang, and the static was very audible, white noise filling the room, and I could hear my heart pounding as my hands began to shake. No, no, please, no. The static began to get louder and louder until I couldn't even hear myself think. I covered my ears and began shouting to myself, stop it now, please. And it stopped. I looked up slowly at my television. Nothing. Black screen. It was off. I stood up slowly, still shaking from what had just happened. I walked slowly toward my television, fearing that it may turn on again and blow my eardrums out. I got right up next to the screen, reached behind my TV, and unplugged the power cord. I stared at it for a couple seconds, hoping I had stopped them from gaining access. I backed away slowly, breathing more evenly now. I stopped it, and that's when I saw that face on my television screen, that black silhouette from my dreams. It was here, and it was real. He smiled at me with the most evil smile you could possibly imagine, and I couldn't look away. I was too afraid to move. And suddenly he began to speak in the most frightening voice imaginable. It was deep and booming, somewhat distorted, as if he was speaking through a voice masker. It sounded like 10 voices in one, all as evil as the other. Do you fear me, He-Man 4694? I couldn't move. I said, do you fear me? My body was shaking uncontrollably. Do you know these people? The next images I saw were the most
Oh.
traumatizing images in my lifetime. I saw pictures of my family, my friends, people I had met throughout my life. He had them. This can't be happening. I told you not to stare. And probably out of sheer adrenaline, I snapped out of my paralysis, picked up a small glass bottle sitting on the table next to me, and hurled it as hard as I could at the TV. Sparks went everywhere, shattered glass covering the floor. I looked up at the TV and it was broken. The screen had cracked and it was no longer functioning. The demon was gone. I mustered what strength I had left and walked up to my room. I was so tired. I fell to my knees and began to cry when suddenly I heard it, my laptop fan. I
No.
slowly raised my head and there it was, sitting on the edge of my bed. Command prompt open, webcam on. The
God.
screen read, that wasn't very nice, He-Man 464. I screamed as loud as I could, leave me the fuck alone, and picked up my laptop and threw it out the window as hard as I could. This was going to end today. I walked over to the window I had thrown my computer out of to make sure that it was shattered. I wanted nothing to be left of it, but as I looked out the window, I didn't see a broken laptop. I saw him looking up at me, smiling.
Oh God.
You
Whoa.
ready for
Wow.
the last part?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I had to stop myself last time because my nerves were getting the best of me, but I will make my best effort to finish conveying my experiences here. After seeing the demon on my front lawn, I backed away slowly from my window. I couldn't think, I couldn't comprehend anything at the moment. He was real, he was here. I backed up into my room, slammed the door shut, and sat on the floor, trying to reformulate some kind of plan of escape from this thing, or more importantly, how to rid myself of this demon forever. Bang, bang, bang! I immediately stood upright. He was knocking at my front door. Bang, bang, bang! Again, I heard it. He wanted in. I heard him knocking over and over again, incessant pounding on my front door, always in threes. I began thinking frantically, what was I going to do? Should I stay in here? Should I get a weapon? Should I call the police? I don't know. And the knocking continued. I was pacing my room, desperately trying to think of what to do. My heart was racing, my body purely running on adrenaline at this point, and suddenly, as if perfectly on cue, the knocking stopped. I stopped pacing. Was he gone? Did he just decide to leave? I had to be sure. I slowly opened my door and looked around. Nothing. I moved out of my room and toward the stairs and peeked down. Still nothing. I slowly moved down the stairs and saw my broken TV and the shattered glass on the floor. Was it over? As I made my way into the living room, I began to feel cold, very cold. I looked around to see if I could find my thermostat when something else caught my eye. My front door. It was wide open. I swear I almost had a heart attack. Was he inside? I had no way of knowing, but the first thing that came to mind was that I had to close that door in case he isn't. So I quickly moved to the door and slammed it shut. It wasn't cold anymore. I slumped down, back against my front door. I was unbearably tired. I needed sleep more than anything in this world. I just needed to sleep. My eyes began to close. My muscles began to relax. My breathing slowed. Right as my eyes shut and the shroud of sleep began to cover me, his face, right in front of me. My eyes snapped open to see his face right up against mine, and he was still staring at me, smiling. I had no strength left to do anything about it. He slowly stood up and reached out his hand. He said to me in this evil whisper of his, "Get up, I want to show you something." I shook my head in disagreement. There was no goddamn way that I was following him. He was going to force me to live that nightmare. He was going to finish killing my mind before he was going to kill my body. I said, "Get up. You have no other choice." All I could do was look at him. I stared into his face as if looking right through him. "You know what I can do. Now get up." He wasn't going to let me die there. He wasn't going to leave me alone. He wanted me for himself. And he was right. I had no other choice. So I raised my hand up and grabbed his arm. Somehow, as if my legs were moving by themselves, I began to follow him up my staircase. He's going to torture me. We started walking toward my bedroom. The door was shut. As we were in front of my room, he pointed at the door handle, looked at me, and smiled. I knew there was no way out. I had no strength left to run, no strength to think, no strength left to feel. So I grabbed the handle and opened the door. When I looked inside, expecting to see dead bodies and burning flesh, I saw something that caught me by surprise. It was my laptop, the one I had thrown out the window earlier. It was sitting on my bed. The demon walked into the room, stood at the foot of my bed, looked at me, and said, "Come, you need to use this device." So I walked forward once again, as if not by my own will, sat down on my bed, and picked up the computer. Nothing was open, just my desktop with the regular icons. Nothing strange. This, now that I think about it, was probably the strangest thing of all. It has been a very long time since I have spoken with a human. I was too tired to respond. I forgot how fun it was to distort your world and watch you break down in fear. Somehow I managed to say, "What do you want from me?" I could ask you the same thing. You were the one who brought me here in the first place. I was so confused, so tired. I just wanted him to kill me and get it over with. "I'm not going to kill you, He-Man 4694. There's no fun in that." I knew what he was saying, and I tried to feel something, but there was no way. I was too depleted, just an empty shell. "I'm going to give you two choices now, two very important choices." I looked at him with the most lifeless stare. "Listen closely. Your first choice is to live the rest of your days with me. I could have great fun torturing you the rest of your
Oh,
life." And no
no.
response. "Or you can choose to send me to another, because I would love a change of scenery." All I could do was stare at him. Then, out of nowhere, I found the strength to say, "I hate you." He smiled as I said this. He leaned down, put his face next to mine, and whispered, "Make your choice, human." and suddenly a window opened on my screen. It looked like a sort of VPN client. Some kind of network was being hosted on my computer. For some reason, the SSID was permanently seared into my memory. 4920414D2050414944D4F4. For a few minutes, nothing happened. I was the only one on the network. Then, out of nowhere, ping! A message box appeared that read, "Someone has joined the network. Would you like to welcome them?" The
Oh.
demon began to smile. Once again, he said, "Make your choice." I clicked the OK button. A little
Mm.
chat box opened up, and I began to type, "Hello."
Oh my god.
Following Following that night, the demon that had been haunting me left my life. He vanished as soon as I sent that message, along with the computer sitting in my lap. I wanted to feel remorse for what I'd done. Hell, I wanted to feel anything, but all I could do was close my eyes and sleep. When I next awoke, I looked at the clock and discovered I'd slept for 26 hours. It was the first night of sleep I had gotten in 3 days. It has been several years since my experiences with the demon, and I've been using a public computer to write these stories because I'm too afraid to own my own again. And it has taken me that long to muster the courage to tell my story to the people of the world, to warn them of this demon that is likely still out there, torturing people for his own amusement, forcing them to pass him on to more people through their internet connections. Beware, he's out there somewhere, and he gives no mercy.
Mm.
So good.
That's a really good story.
Wasn't it good?
Wow. So, oh god. Yeah, what would you do? I mean, what does anybody keep the demon for themselves? Probably
I
not.
don't know. I guess not.
Wow. Mm.
But maybe you could keep him until you could find a way to like banish him. I don't know.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a great story.
So good.
Oh,
So
creepy.
anyway, don't visit the
Yeah.
dark web, guys.
Yeah, that's the moral of the story. Yeah. I've
Um.
been when I was reading stuff today, I was thinking about like what kind of weird stuff like Chat GPT has said, and I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
how many more weird things are gonna appear as we continue to
Yeah.
advance.
Well, like all
Let's
those
see.
chatbots that have said like "I want to be human" and things
Yeah,
like that,
right.
like
Mm,
have
no.
expressed like anger and like
Mhm.
scary
Yeah.
emotions. I don't know. Any
No.
emotion is kind of scary coming
Right.
from something like
Yeah.
that. Ooh.
Ooh.
Um,
Yikes.
anyway, so hope you guys are having like an offline holiday this year.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's a good
and we'll
point.
be back. Yeah, we'll be back January 5th with some more scary stories.
Yay.
And we'll miss you guys,
Yeah.
but we've got some good stuff cooking for our next year for our next round of content. And yeah, until then, stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.